everybody. So today we are going to be talking about solar return charts. I feel like this is a good some bug. Sorry. I feel like this is a good video to go along with the video that I did last week about annual perfections and the Time Lord, and then the video that I did the week before that, or the week before that, that had to do with transits, like how to read transits kind of thing. So this goes nicely with those videos. Because when I do these readings for people, like solar return readings, I will generally do like part one will deal with the solar return chart for somebody, and then part two will deal with the Time Lord, the annual perfection part, and the transits. So if you ever have a report like a solar return report or reading from me, they will deal with all of these things. So this goes nicely with these other videos. And if you're like, I think she already did a video about this, you would be right. About a year and a half ago, I did do a video on solar returns. I got rid of it though, because the older videos are, the less likely they seem to be seen just because they're older. And especially if somebody has a whole bunch of videos in their catalog or what have you. And I know there are quite a few on Let's Talk with Astrology. They don't get seen. And I wanted this seen now to go along with the other. So that video has been removed and this one will be in its place. But before I start talking about solar returns, I do want to mention just a couple of quick things. The first of which is when I upload this video to YouTube, it'll be Sunday, October 2nd. My course, Past Life and Present Mission course, starts on Sunday, October 2nd. It starts today. I will be leaving registration open for this through when the second class is on Sunday, October 9th. The reason for that is there might be people that didn't know that this course existed, and you can find it in the description box, a link to it on my website, saturnseason.com. It's under courses and classes, but I will, it's a first option on there, but I will put the link to where you can find it in the description box below. So if you want to jump on, you can. Also, there might be people that are like, I don't know if I want to do it. Maybe I want to do it, blah, 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 blah. This gives you some more time to think about if you want to do it or not. But after the second class or shortly before the second class, registration will be closed. The reason for that is the more that you miss, the harder it is to catch up. Like it feels like it'd be easy to catch up with one class, but two might be a little much. So, yeah. And obviously, if you jump on between the first class and the second class, you will be getting the recording from the first class. You will get the notes from the first class. You will get the homework that was given out during the first class. All of these will be provided to you. And the only class that I'm going to be offering a la carte, which will be at the end of October, is the one on the draconic chart. I believe I have that set for October 30th, but I will let you know when that is available too, because I do know that there are people that are very interested in the draconic chart and might just be interested in that particular class. The second thing I want to mention, and I'm really excited about this, the Zine Witch reached out to me and asked if I would be a part of a series that they are running for the Coven, which is their platform. And it's a series about transits that changed your life. And so they asked if I would come on and talk about a transit that changed my life. And I'm thinking to myself, when I'm being asked this, I'm thinking, there's just so many fucking Pluto transits to choose from. Because there are. So, I was thinking about which one to do. And we decided on a transit Pluto conjunct the moon. So that will take place in mid-October. I am not 100% sure if this is live or not. It might be. I don't know. But if you follow the Zine Witch, make sure to watch for it. I will be there talking about transit Pluto conjunct the moon. I'm starting to formulate thoughts about this because but the first thing that comes to my mind is you couldn't fucking pay me to go back to that. Like you couldn't fucking pay me. You could not fucking pay me. You just couldn't. That may not be universal for everybody. With transit Pluto, that's had transit Pluto conjunct the moon, but motherfucker, you really couldn't pay me to go back to that period of time in my life. You just couldn't. You just couldn't. But definitely, if you follow them, check it out. Be on the watch for it in mid-October. And I love talking to people. I love having people on here on Let's Talk with Astrology. About, like the Galactic Center Diaries, or even just having people on to shoot the shit about topics in astrology. If you want me to come on and collaborate with you in some way, let me know. Reach out. You can reach out in, the messages or the comments on YouTube. You can email me at saturnseason@gmail.com. I'm happy to do something for your platform too. And if you want to come on here and shoot the shit or something, let me know. I love talking. So and I love hosting, and I love being hosted. So just wanted to throw that out there too. Anyway, solar return charts. What the fuck are they? All right. So for anybody who doesn't already know what these are, solar return charts are created from the time that that the transiting sun comes home to its place in your natal chart. By that, I mean, like when the transiting sun happens to be conjunct your natal sun at the same degree, same minute, same second, that is when a solar return chart is created. That's how it's created. And it's a picture of, like a natal chart, it's a picture of that time when the transiting sun comes home to your natal chart, in your natal chart. It usually happens, not usually, it happens. It doesn't always, it doesn't always happen on your birthday. Sometimes it will, but it'll happen like the day before your birthday, day of your birthday, day after your birthday. But it doesn't always happen on your birthday. And some people will just use the natal chart, the birthplace in the natal chart as a location for the solar return. You can do that. I really prefer to know exactly where the person was when the solar return took place, what city, what town that they were in, and I will set the reference place for that. That way, everything is like exactly as it should be, location wise. But if you were going to try to pull it really early and you weren't sure exactly where you were going to be on your birthday, you could use your natal chart location, but I would definitely repull it when you know where you are going to be when that solar return takes place, or if it's already past where you were, and use the actual location that you were. So this video is going to deal with kind of like what stands out to me. I'm going to screen share here for just a second so you can see. Okay, so this is my solar return chart for 2021 for my birthday. That happened in 2021. In my case, it happened the day before my birthday. My birthday is actually November 24th, but this took place on November 23rd at 2:10 p.m. I was here in Austin. I actually remember I was going to the park with my son when this happened. And I remember really wanting to be somewhere else, like location wise, because you actually can mess with this. Like if you don't like the way that your solar return chart looks, you can like for the future, you can actually change it a little bit by way of the location. Now the planets are all going to be where the planets are when that solar return happens, right? Like they're going to be at the degrees that they're in and the signs that they're in, but the houses can change. Like if you really, I don't know, like let's say you really didn't want that sun in the 8th house, you could try, changing the location to put yourself somewhere else when that solar return takes place. You wouldn't be able to change that it's 1 degree 45 minutes Sagittarius, but you could change the house, which means those areas of life would be changed where that focus is. Yeah, you can do that. That kind of thing though. That's why I wanted to be somewhere else so badly. There were things in this chart that I remember thinking, oh, what the fuck? Like I'd really like them to be, somewhere else in a different house, but I didn't end up going anywhere. So this was my solar return chart for 2021. Okay, so when I look at solar return charts, there are a few things that I will look at for sure. I mean, you want to look at the whole thing, obviously, but there are definitely some things that I always look at that always catch my attention. The first of which is where the solar return sun falls by house. Obviously, because the solar return chart is created when the transiting sun comes back to the natal sun, they're going to be at the same degree, minute, and second. But Um, but the house may change. So wherever the solar return sun falls by house can kind of give you an idea of what areas of life kind of have a light shined on them or are illuminated just by virtue of the sun being there. So you definitely want to take that into consideration. In this case, it is in the eighth house. You'd also want to I also take a look at where the solar return moon falls in the chart, by sign house and in aspects, just like with the sun. So here we have the solar return moon in Cancer in the fourth house. So that would definitely want to be noticed. I would also look at the solar return ascendant. This one's in Pisces, which then, after looking at that, I would want to look at the chart rulers. In this case, we've got rulers. I use both traditional and modern rulership. If you just use traditional, in this case, you go with Jupiter. If you just use modern, you go with Neptune. But if you're like me and use both, you'd look at both. Well, both of these happen to fall in the 12th house. Jupiter in Aquarius and Neptune in Pisces. So that kind of that already puts a focus on the way that I would look at this, like just knee jerk, puts a focus on like the deepest part of the conscious, the subconscious, or the place between the conscious and the unconscious, puts a focus on these kinds of things, on these areas. I mean, obviously the fourth house can be more than that, the eighth house can be more than that, the 12th house can be more than that. But yeah, since I think of the fourth house as like, one of the ways that I think of the fourth house is the deeply conscious part of you that's more private. This is kind of like the bridge between the unconscious and the conscious and the unconscious, and this is the unconscious. So it definitely stands out that those things are highlighted this year by the planets that fall there. Another thing that I will look at is the Time Lord. I think the Time Lord is really, really super important to look at in solar return charts. In my case this year, through my next birthday in a couple of months, or at the end of November, I guess that's less than a couple of months now. My Time Lord is Venus. So that would make Venus important in this chart. It's also opposing the moon, which definitely will catch my attention and does. But I do think that should be looked at too. And I think that's kind of a way to tie these two together. But I bring that up because I know some people do. I also know some people don't. And I do think that it's something that shouldn't be missed in a solar return reading, because, the Time Lord is incredibly important, via transits, right? And transits to the Time Lord. So it's going to be important in the solar return chart too. It should not be left out. What the fuck? That's loud. God, people go so fucking ridiculous down that street. Anyway, another thing that I look at in solar return charts is solar return Saturn. Solar return Saturn tends to show like where you will put in work during the year, where you might be tested during the year, where you might feel like you need to, some people think, and Saturn is boundaries and limitations. It certainly can be, but I really feel like at a higher vibration, Saturn wants you to break through those boundaries and limitations. I really, really do. And I feel like the testing, wherever Saturn falls in the solar return chart, the testing can kind of have something to do with that. It can, not always, but it can. It can have to do with breaking through boundaries and limitations. Or you could just feel very limited in that area of life by house, or in that or how, in that sign, whatever sign it's in. But I would definitely look at solar return Saturn. I would also look at the nodal axis, but I don't look at it in terms of like your past life. I look at it more in terms of like where you're starting this year out, where you're coming from, where the year starts, where the solar return year starts. And as with the south node and the north node being more like where you want to go. as the year unfolds. It, in this case, my solar return sun is right up the solar return south node's ass, like within 3 minutes, like right, like fucking each other hard. And so, and so, this is in the eighth house. And I remember seeing this back in August of like 2021 and thinking, fuck, thinking, fuck. This is definitely like, the eighth house can deal with a lot of things. It can deal with other people's resources and values. It can deal with deep soul merging between two people. It can deal with all of those kinds of things. The sun is also identity and ego. And to me, this really did feel like it would be the letting go of my marriage. I remember seeing that and thinking, this is the year that I end up getting divorced. And that ended up being the case. Just because like the deep soul merging here, right? Like Scorpio energy, right? Like Scorpio is actually on the cusp of the house. And the South Node was in Sagittarius at this time, but Scorpio is actually on the cusp of the house, and you have more aggressive ass Mars here too. It felt like the letting go of some kind of deep soul merging relationship and the identity that I maybe had around that, and moving towards a new perception. North Node in Gemini in the second house, a new, more stable perception, perhaps, more based on myself. Or that's kind of how it feels to me. But that's kind of what I'll look at in regards to solar return charts, without going too much into that. That's kind of what I'll look at, kind of what I think the highlights generally are. Another way that I like to look at these, and another way that I think is really important to look at these, is up against the natal chart. And I don't know that everybody does this. I definitely do. Because it kind of, certain things are going to be activated by way of, like, for instance, like my time lord in the solar return chart, it happens to be conjunct my moon in my natal chart, which kind of gives, because like when you see something like Venus in the 10th house in Capricorn, it might on its own in the solar return chart, it might seem more about like valuing career, valuing I don't know, public presence, valuing these kinds of things, right? Especially in Capricorn. But having the moon involved, the natal moon, it kind of adds another dynamic to it. It's not just about career and public presence and those things. There's an emotional component to it too, which is very true. So it just kind of helps to add, I mean, if you've ever had a reading from me or you've watched this long enough, you know that I like to look at things from a bunch of different angles. I like to look at the different layers of things. I think it's important to look at the different layers of things. Yeah, I think it's important. I don't have it pulled here, but I'll tell you the reason why I didn't end up. Another reason why I knew this year would be really hard. This IC, the solar return IC, is conjunct Chiron, my natal Chiron. I knew this would be a difficult year. I knew it. I was prepared for difficulty. I perhaps wasn't prepared for. I was prepared for it, but I wasn't. Kind of like when you have kids and you're like, oh, I'm prepared for it. You have you have everything you think you need, and then it's like you have your child and you're not even born yet. You don't know shit. It's kind of like that. That's kind of what this was like. Like I was prepared for it, but I wasn't at all. But I knew it was coming. And I saw this and I thought, fuck, just motherfucker. But I also noticed that my my midheaven, my solar return midheaven was conjunct Venus and Uranus in my natal chart, which is also conjunct the GC. So that's the reason why I didn't go anywhere. I didn't change the location that actually is. Like I knew that there would be a lot of pain, but I also knew that this would be really fucking cool. And it has been fucking awesome. That part of it has. This part, not so much. But I guess that's kind of like everything, right? There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Sometimes some things are great, some things fucking suck. It is what it is. But yeah, I would definitely throw the solar return chart on top of the natal chart to get an idea as to, you know, what's kind of playing with each other. And you can look at other aspects too beyond just conjunctions. I just use those because they're the most visible here in this context, but there are other aspects that did stand out to me when I looked at this. I haven't actually looked at this in a minute, but when I looked at it before, there were other things that stood out. But yeah, I'm gonna go and stop screen sharing now. Okay, yeah. So they are, I think that they are a cool thing to look at in tandem with annual perfections and the Time Lord. If you ever want me to do a reading like this for you, I can do it, you know, over video, like a video call, like a Zoom call, or I can do it over report. But yeah, I think they're fun and I think they're really, really cool to do like right after your birthday or right before your birthday if you know where you're gonna be. They kind of give you an idea of what you might expect the year ahead, what might be coming down. I know that some people also will read solar return charts. They'll look at it like each house is a month of the year. I don't do that. I don't do it like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't do it that way. So if you're looking for that kind of a thing, I don't do it that way. But yeah, just figured I'd throw that out there because some people might be confused since I didn't mention that and they maybe are used to hearing it talked about like that. I don't really do it like that, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it if you do. Anyway, I'm going to head off, but I will put where you can find me below, all that good stuff, and I will see you all later.